live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and you were on the lifeboat, and we will see whether or not anybody shows up. Seems that the big red button was not fond of the the subject matter, but you know what? We're going to do it anyway. So that's the nature of this. If by some chance you do not want to hear about the politics of drugs, here's your chance. You can bail. It is what it is. I am going to be talking about the politics of drugs. I'm not looking to bag on any particular party, but there are some issues here that really need to be discussed. You see, here's the concept, people. And I know that I'm saying this with about 4 people watching, sadly, because it's they took down the feed, and I had to put it up again really quickly. So hopefully people find this. But here's what it comes down to. The concept of this country is that it is a government for the people, by the people, yada, yada. However, that's BS. And sadly, that is an issue. We all suffer from an addiction, and that addiction is a disease. It is a medical condition. It's a disease. And for that, we're persecuted, we're incarcerated, our lives are destroyed because we have an illness. We don't see them doing this to people with diabetes. We don't seem to see them doing this to people with cancer. So this needs to be addressed. So today I am going to be talking about the politics of drugs. If that offends you, I give you all permission to sign off. I'm not going to hold anybody accountable, but I'm going to let them have it because you know something? The time has come to do something about this, people. And you know what? We're in a position to do that. We really are. Let's go over some facts. Facts are fun. Right now in America, 1 out of 10 Americans, that's 10%. I know I was told there'd be no math, but that's 10%. 10% of Americans believe that cannabis should be illegal for any reason, whether it be medical, whether it be recreational. 1 in 10 believe that it should be illegal. How is it then that it is a federal offense for cannabis to be smoked, eaten, consumed in any way? You see, there are states that allow it, but the federal government does not. The federal government, in theory, is here for the people, to do the people's will, the people's bidding. That's the design, right? Then how is it that 90% of this country believes cannabis should be legal, yet it isn't? But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there in the slightest. When it comes to decriminalization, which is something we were talking about the other day, 55% of this country, that's a majority any way you shake it, 55% of the country believes that decriminalization is a good idea. That the drug laws, the way that they are written currently, are not the desire of the people of this country. 55%. When you break that down by party, 69% of Democrats believe that that is the case. 54% of independents, and sadly 40% of the Republican Party. Nevertheless, 55%, the majority of Americans, want drugs to be decriminalized. Yet today, they're going to arrest a crapload of people for possession of drugs, and those arrests are going to destroy the lives of the people who get arrested. What's their crime? A disease? A disease. Most people do not use recreational drugs as a reason because they want to get high. Truthfully, that's simply not the case. The case is that most of the people who are using these substances, have a medical condition that makes it very difficult, if not impossible, for them to say no to these substances. How do we treat them? Like criminals. We treat them no different from someone who kicks your door in and comes in to steal the things that you own. We treat them no different than somebody who carries a gun illegally. We treat them no different than a rapist. Is that in the best interest of this country? Well, I'll tell you what, 55% of the country doesn't think it is. Then how the hell are our elected officials not doing what we want? That's an issue. These people are elected to do our will. Simply put, they're not doing our will. I was on the fence for a long time about this. My bobbleheaded partner was also on the fence about this. This is a difficult subject to discuss. And there are people who are going to think that these drugs should not be decriminalized. And I respect your opinion. Truthfully, I do. But you're in the minority. You're in the minority. The majority of this country realizes that the war on drugs is a hoax. If it's a hoax, then our elected officials need to do what we want, which is to stop prosecuting people with the disease. Someone on the boat who I have a great deal of respect for this morning said, I've never seen anybody say, you know what, that person can't handle insulin, let's arrest them. Seems stupid, doesn't it? This is a medical condition, no different, zero difference than diabetes. And there are people out there who are going to say, well, those people chose to do drugs. And a lot of people chose to eat way too much. They chose to drink way too many sugary beverages. They chose to not exercise and not take care of themselves and developed diabetes. We're not born with it, developed it. Let's prosecute them. Let's make it so that they can't be lawyers or doctors. Let's make sure that there are apartment complexes they can't live in. Let's make sure that those stinking diabetics can't live near a school zone. That's justice, isn't it? Sounds friggin' ridiculous. Then why is it not ridiculous that we treat drug addicts the exact same way? I know. Maybe it's because we want cartel violence. Maybe we want to give criminals an opportunity to make hundreds of billions of dollars on an illness in this country. Let's let the cartels get rich off of illness. Imagine if those cartels were slinging insulin. Think about it for a second. What if the cartels had little vials for hypo and hyperglycemic people? Sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But it's a disease, people. The days of debating whether or not drug addiction are a disease have waved bye-bye a long time ago. There is no longer any debate that drug addiction is a disease. Why then do we treat it as if it is not? Why is it that the people with these diseases need to be treated like the scum of the earth? And if you don't think that's the case, imagine if today 400 diabetics died because the poison that they were getting for their hypo or hyperglycemic medication was coming from dirt bags south of the border who didn't care whether or not they died. How long would it take for the United States of America to kick some ass and make sure that that didn't happen anymore? Do you think it would take a day, a week, a month? Well, we've been allowing this to happen to drug addicts for decades. My life will never be the same. The potential that I had as a human being is gone because of a disease that I had. And many people on the boat are in the same position. And I'll tell you something. The way I view drug addicts has changed dramatically since I started the lifeboat. Because some of the best people I've ever met suffer from this disease and fight it every day. If this is the case, if they have these diseases, then why, in the name of God, are we not providing them with a safe way to deal with their affliction? Thank you, CK. Thank you. I'm tired, sick and tired of not saying what I believe. It has gotten to a point where I'm done. And you know what? The big red button is going to have a child. They did everything they could to shut this one down. I don't know if you noticed, people, but at the very last second, they said, this has been deleted. Well, we got it back up. What happens to it after the fact will be interesting. Thank you so much, ZW. I appreciate you. I really do. So let's keep going, shall we? Currently, U.S. Representatives Cori Bush and Bonnie Watson are introducing a bill today that would decriminalize not just cannabis, but all drug possession in favor of what they're calling a health-centered approach. The Drug Policy Reform Act, DRPA, would end criminal penalties for personal use of drug possession at the federal level. It would expunge criminal records. Let's say that one more time, shall we? It would expunge criminal records, giving people whose only crime was possession of a drug that they couldn't say no to the opportunity to become lawyers or doctors or politicians. Well, that's friggin' justice, isn't it? The same way that it would be heinous to take someone who had a disease like cancer and say, you can't be a school teacher or a doctor. You can't live near a school. You had cancer. Stupid, right? Well, it would expunge those people's records and shift regulatory authority from the Attorney General to the Secretary of Health and Human Services to emphasize that substance use is a health issue, not a criminal issue. You want to tell me anybody thinks this is a bad idea? 55% of the country thinks it's a good idea. 55%. Any jackwagon running for president in the next election who gets 55% of the vote is our president. That's a majority, people. Then why is this illegal? Why are we persecuting people for something they cannot control? Under the act, people could still face fines for drug possession, but the court would waive the fine if the person was unable to pay. Wow. So rich people who were doing blow might have to pay a fine, but people who were drug addicts that were barely making it wouldn't. Well, there's some logic, isn't it? All kinds of it. Because the person who gets caught with blow that can afford that fine can also afford the best medical care possible to beat their addiction. Unlike a lot of the people on the street whose only hope is the lifeboat or organizations like it. This bill is genius, and it is drafted by a political party that I think sucks. But I've said a million times, if somebody comes up with an idea that's good, I don't care what party you're on. This is a good idea. It's a good idea that 55% of this country agrees with. Think it's going to pass? Well, if it doesn't, we need to start raising hell because they're there to do our bidding. We elect them to do what we want, not what they want. It's got to stop. And I promise you, people, I'm going to get involved in as hell in getting signatures and starting to raise Cain. Because if the majority of this country believes that this should happen, why won't it? Because our government is corrupt. That's why. Bottom line, Democrat, Republican, Independent, they're corrupt. It's got to come to a stop, people. And there's never been a better time right now, with 55% of this country thinking that the war on drugs needs to stop, then we need to start acting. Now's the time. Now's the time to start writing letters, to start signing petitions, and to start getting in the faces of all of these idiots who become lifetime politicians and get catered to like they're emperors. Free air travel, 13 people on a staff so that they don't have to pick up their own damn laundry or shop for their own milk. The average politician couldn't tell you what a gallon of milk cost. That's the reality of these idiots we send to Congress and to the House. Here's our chance. 55% of the country agrees with what I'm saying. If you don't, I respect your opinion, but you're in the minority. Okay, let's finish this up here. The act would require HHS, right, Health and Human Services, to establish a commission on substance abuse, health, and safety to determine the benchmark amount for personal drug use for possession of what is personal drug use. Because some of the stuff they've come up with in the past, like 1/10 of a gram, let me tell you something. I did 7 grams a day. That was my personal use. But if I got caught with that, I was a drug dealer. I didn't sell heroin, ever. I wasn't a dealer. But if I got caught with that 7 grams, which was my personal use, I would have done 25 years in prison. Does that sound like justice? It's not. It would also limit state and local governments from being able to receive funds under the Burn and Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, grants program, both of which help fund state and local police departments. If they don't adopt decriminalization policies, no more money. This is a hell of a bill. This is a hell of a bill. 2/3 of American voters now support decriminalization of all drugs, while 83% believe that the war on drugs has failed, according to a new poll. 83%. That means 17% of jackwagons in this country believe the war on drugs is winnable and that we're doing something good. 17%. Then why do we keep fighting it? It is a government by the people, for the people. No, that's BS. It's supposed to be, but it's not. 83% believe the war on drugs has failed. A 66% majority were in favor of eliminating criminal penalties for drug possession and reinvesting drug enforcement resources into treatment and addiction services, according to the poll released Wednesday by the Drug Policy Alliance. The American Civil Liberties Union support decriminalization deferred depending on political affiliation, while 85% of Democrats and 72% of independents favored decriminalization. Why the hell is it a crime? Why is possession of a personal use amount of drugs a crime? Who's getting paid? How is this benefiting the dirtbags who are voting against what we want? The only way that this is going to change is if we make these idiots realize we're going to run their filthy cans out of office if they don't do what the people want done. You understand what this means, do you not? It means that these idiots in office believe they're smarter than we are. The idiots in office believe that they are more intelligent, or they're getting fat paychecks for their re-election campaigns. Guess where those are coming from? Big Pharma. See, Big Pharma doesn't like this concept. They want to control the drug trade in this country. Sadly, and I told you people, I hate both parties. And I've said to you, both parties are screwing up. In fact, the Republican Party, and you know I lean in that direction, 40% of the Republican Party believe in decriminalization, which means they're not in the majority. They're in the minority. However, they are hosting right now the opportunity to get together and talk about what we can do to stop fentanyl from coming across the border. The Democratic Party said, we're not even going to show up. Let me say that one more time. We're going to get together to determine how we can stop fent from coming across the border. But God forbid they could give a victory to the people that said, build a wall. So they're just not going to show up, which is like saying, we don't have a problem. There's no problem. The 400 people who die a day, they're write-offs. If those 400 people a day had cancer, or if those 400 people a day had diabetes or any other affliction, what would be happening? I'll tell you what would be happening. We'd be kicking the ever-loving hell out of government. Franklin, thank you, my brother. People, I'll tell you something. This is it. This is it. I have pulled punches on this channel because I'm afraid of the big red button. I'll tell you something today. I am going to be putting up another channel, and it is going to be on Rumble because research has been done for me by guess who? My bobble-headed partner has reached out to me. We discussed Rumble a long time ago, and he said, you know the problem? And I agreed with him. He said, the problem is it leans really in one direction, and we don't want people to think that we have a political leaning in one direction or another. And I said, you know what? You're right. However, we're wrong. Mark went out and did a bunch of research, and he said, you know what, Tommy? You need to be on Rumble because they're going to let you say whatever you want. They're not going to give you any crap about it. There's no algorithm to bury you. You're going to be able to say what you want. I'm going to continue to do this on the big red button until they pull the plug, and trust and believe they're going to pull the plug because I'm done pulling punches. I'm done being just like everybody else because that's what it is. If I'm not here telling the truth, then I'm just like those scumbags that we elect to office who then do nothing about the problems that are facing us. Us. You understand? This is about us, the write-offs, the people that the society has said we don't care about. And the sad thing is, I've been saying that for a really long time. Society doesn't care about us. I'm wrong. You hear me? I don't say that often. I'm wrong. The fact that 55% of the country wants to decriminalize drugs, all of them, tells me that the majority of this country cares about us. You hear that? Let me say that one more time. The majority of this country cares about us. It's the politicians who think we're scumbags. It's the politicians that think we don't deserve to be called Americans. We don't deserve a right to build a future. You know why? Because you have a disease. And I got news for you. We may have chosen to get high, but the disease is there whether you make that choice or not. You guys met Cedar. She's a drug addict. She's never gotten high on anything other than weed. She's never done a hard drug. When she does, she will become addicted to it that fast because she has the disease. You understand? Honestly, how heavy duty this is? I'm done pulling punches. And I'll tell you something else. I'm going to write up one hell of a piece of paper, and I'm going to get a hell of a lot of people to sign it. And we're going to start mailing it to every single politician in this country. And it's going to say, we're not going to elect you if you don't do what the people want done. That's their friggin' job, to do what the people want done. 55%, or according to the newest poll, 3/4 of Americans say the drug war, no bueno. Do you have any idea why they continue to fund a war that they know doesn't work? Because they like their little fiefdom. They love the amount of money that they're getting. They love how much cash we're throwing their way that they can play with, that they can hire friends and pay them ridiculous amounts of money. And they can go to people who build urban assault vehicles. Because I'll tell you something, when you raid a drug house, you really need a friggin' tank. That's where the money's going. If you research and start going down that rabbit hole, what we're spending money on right now is absolutely bizarre. Bizarre. 50 caliber machine guns, urban assault vehicles, which for all intents and purposes are tanks with nicer tires. How often do you think those get used? At the end of every year, this unbelievably inflated budget is going to go up by 15%. Oh, they don't want to give it up. The war on drugs isn't winnable, but it's fundable. It's fundable. All of those people need to go. We don't need them. We don't need them. Let them go get real jobs. Read a great statistic today. This one ought to blow your hair back. What percentage of people who work for the government don't file taxes? Interesting, right? If you don't file taxes, what happens? You can deep doo-doo. In fact, they just hired 80,000 some odd new IRS agents so that they can go out and do audits on people. In a recent, they brought up the head of the IRS to Congress to ask what percentage of those people audited are going to be making more than $400,000 a year. And you know what the answer was? Not a damn one. I'm exaggerating. But more than 90% of those audits are going to be on people who aren't rich. You know why? Because the rich have got 6 lawyers and they don't need a damn, they're not worried about an audit. They're going to win one. This has got to come to a stop, people. This has got to come to a stop. Thank you very much, Family Landscape. I appreciate you. It has to come to a stop. And if it isn't us, who the hell is going to do it? If it's not those of us with the disease that is getting crapped on, then who in the name of God is going to do it? 3/4 of the country is on our side. 3/4, 75%. You realize that 50.05% will elect a president, a governor, a senator. 3/4 of this country doesn't want the war on drugs to continue the way it's continuing. It's a failure. You know what we've done? Seriously. We have created cartels. That's what we've done. Put them out of business. Screw them. No more fent. I got a question for you. If you could go and buy a pharmaceutical grade diacetylmorphine, pure, no chance whatsoever of getting a batch that was going to kill you, what idiot is going to buy fent? No one. No one. Do you know why drugs are expensive? I realize that I'm telling you things that are so obvious I should be slapped in the head for saying it. But do you know why drugs are expensive? Because they're illegal. We've created a black market. And when people take risks in order to make money, then they charge a lot of money to justify those risks. They got to smuggle that crap across the border, right? Then they got to take the risk of selling it. And when they get caught, they're going to do a lot of time in prison. So what do? They raise the prices. And in doing so, those with diseases cannot afford to live. So what do? They steal. They prostitute. How many people out there selling themselves, having sex with strangers, right? Regardless of what this person looks like or what they smell like, they sell themselves to that individual because they need money to get high. 3/4 of the country think that's jacked up. And you know what's going to happen to this bill that makes more sense than anything you ever heard? It's going to get voted down. It's going to get voted down by people that we put in office who are there to do our bidding. Yeah. I'm done. I'm done playing games. AKA Heather Joy, thank you. And thank you for all you do. Heather's a soldier in this, people. You know, Miss Dragon is a soldier in this. There are so many people here today that care enough to fight. You know what then? We got to fight. There's 4,000 of us. You think 4,000 people are enough to make a difference? Hate to get religious on you, but you know what 12 people did after Christ was nailed to a cross? 12 people. Have any idea the number of Christians they created? 12 people. You know what 4,000 of us could do if we got busy? If we started acting like Seventh Son, do you know what 4,000 of us could do? We could change this. We got to get loud. Trust and believe I'm going to. This isn't going to be every show because I want to help people get sober. The purpose of this is not so that everybody can go out and do dope. The purpose of this is so that we can use the money that we're wasting to make cartels rich and put it into ways to help people get sober. Do you realize that every single person on opiates in this country, we could give medical assisted treatment for free for about 1/10 of what we're spending on the war on drugs? Wrap your dome around that. There's nobody in this country we couldn't send to rehab for what we are peeing down the drain in a war on drugs that is doing nothing except making dirtbags who live in Mexico really wealthy. You know what they're doing with their money? They're buying weapons. Yeah, that's what they're doing with our money. How much cash every single week gets sent out of this country to never return? How long can our economy put up with that? If you take the $30 trillion that we're in debt, how much of that do you think is because of the war on drugs? Because I'm telling you, it's a buttload. It's our second largest budget, and it has been since Nixon. How much money have we wasted? How much money have we gone into debt to hassle people with disease? Again, I'll just keep coming back to it. What if these people were suffering from cancer? Oh, you need some chemo medication? We're buying it from the cartels. By the way, there's a real good chance 1 out of every 6 batches of chemo is going to kill you. How's that? Radiation therapy? Oh, we're buying all of those machines from cartels in Mexico. And about 1 out of 6 of them is going to kill you as soon as they turn it on. Good luck with your cancer. It's ridiculous, right? But it isn't. This is the world we're living in. You want the politics of drugs? Here it is. 3/4 of our country want out. Should be a lock, right? We're good. By the end of this session, we're done. 3/4 of the country want something. The politician's job is to do what we want. You mark my words. They're going to vote against this. To satisfy who? The people paying their election, right? The people paying for them to get reelected so they don't have to go get a job. Term limits, don't get me started. Don't get me started. I mean, we could talk about how ugly the politics are for eternity, but the politics of addiction is what we're talking about. The politics of drugs is what we're talking about. The politics of disease. We could fix everybody in this country easily. We could give every person that wants the opportunity to get sober free medical care to get sober and still save the country a fortune. The only thing we spend more money on than the war on drugs is our military budget. We just shot down a $100 recreational balloon with 2 missiles that were $400,000 apiece. Right? Think we got money to burn? We don't. We don't. We're broke. If this was your household budget, you would have been evicted years ago. Here's an opportunity to save a ton of money and, more importantly, a ton of lives. Think of how many people got sober and you say, boy, they got out, right? They're good. They got sober. Yeah. Try going and getting a job if you're me. I have my own business. Do you know how screwed I would be if I wasn't running my own business? I can't get a job. And there are so many people on the boat right now struggling to get work because they're drug addicts, right? If you did away with this war on drug addicts, right? Not the war on drugs, because there is no war on drugs. Yesterday we talked about this. 82% of all of busts, all of the people that get arrested this year for drugs, 12% are drug dealers. That's not a war on drug dealers. It's not a war on drugs. It's a war on us. It's a war on us. How much money could we put into education? How much money could we put into sending people to school to say to kids, you know what? You might be a drug addict already. You think any kid has ever heard that in a school? You think Dare told anyone that? Kid, you could be a drug addict already. You don't have any idea. You see, it's predestined. Your chemical makeup, you're a drug addict, whether you know it or not. Now, you might not be. You might not be. But if you're going to fart around with drugs, maybe you should fart around with one that isn't going to destroy your life. Smoke a little weed. You know, experiment with stuff. Don't experiment with benzos. Don't experiment with cocaine or heroin or methamphetamines, right? Or any drug that's going to destroy your life. There's no education like that. You know why? Can't afford it. Can't afford to send people to schools like that. Do you know why? Because we got the DEA, we got Vice, we got all of these different organizations that we're just dumping money onto. Get you a 50 cal machine gun. Get you a tank. Because when you raid a crack house, you need a tank. How many of those tanks that we sent out got used? And don't get me wrong, they're waiting. They're doing anything they can to roll up in a tank. But did they need it? Do we need any of that? No. But when it comes down to the end of the year and you've got another $600 million in your bank account, you're going to blow it. Because if you don't, you're not going to get a 15% bump on your next budget. And these idiots that are running the DEA and that are running all of these different organizations that are intended to fight the war on drugs only care about the money. This is a joke. And it's not my favorite thing to do to come here and yell. It's not. But I come here in spite of the fact that I say this is not a religious channel. I believe Jesus Christ got nailed to a cross, got up 3 days later, and is a savior. And I will always say that because I am never going to be untrue to me. I don't shove it down anyone's throat, but I'm never not going to be true to me. And you know something? Not doing shows like this isn't being true to me anymore. It's not. I'm pissed for really logical reasons because every single thing I'm telling you is a fact. 3/4 of this country wants something to happen that's not going to. How is that a democracy? Make me understand how this is not a democracy. 3/4, we're set, right? This stuff's going to be decriminalized this year, isn't it? Right? 3/4 of the country think the war on drugs is a joke. 55% of the country want decriminalization. It's a lock. Why the hell wouldn't it be? Okay, great. You live in a state that happens to not be part of that 55%, then it is your elected official's job to say, we're not going to do it here. We're not going to do it because my constituents don't want it. See, that's their job. Their job is to do what the constituents want. Here's the problem. None of us say a damn word. We don't do anything to let them know that, yo, I'm a constituent. Me and 75% of the rest of the country think you need to do something about this. As in, stop. Happy birthday, Brumfield. Oh, that's nice. Happy birthday, Crazy Brumfield. Happy 29th. Zen Wen, you are kind, truthfully. Mark Wages. So much truth in one sentence. Keep that rolling, Tommy. Mark, I love you. And like I said, Mark is, again, people, Mark's never gone. We're going to be rolling out on Rumble. And I'm going to tell you people about it. You can choose which way you watch. But I'm going to be on Rumble because the day is coming where the big red button is going to get, you're going to get sick and tired of hearing the truth. Sadly, that's the way it rolls. Right? We saw what they did to Miss Dragon without a strike. So I'm going to have a backup because I'm not going to stop yelling. I'm not. And I intend to draft up some things that people can sign, right? It needs to happen. We need to put our signature to things that say it's got to stop. This war on drugs is a friggin' joke. And sadly, it is the most expensive joke in this country aside from our military. And I'll be really honest with you, I'm a fan of the military. I am. Of the people who serve in it and the really cool weapons because I think we need them. See, the beasts from the East, they intend to take over the world. Whether you realize that or not, they intend to take over the world. And we're going to make it easy as hell for them because we wasted all of this money. Think if we just took half of the war on drugs and put it to the military. And we took the other half and put it into treating people like us. Giving them an option. What if they're not ready to quit? Good. They're not ready to quit. That's okay. It's the reality of drug addiction. Give them a safe product that isn't going to kill them that they can pick up at a pharmacy for cheap. You think it's going to make the people who do drugs go through the roof? Oddly, didn't happen in any other country. Every country that has tried decriminalization has had a landslide of people who stopped using. Who stopped. Why? Because now you could go get treatment for free. Now you don't have to worry about how am I going to come up with enough money to go and check myself into a rehab? Well, you won't have to. You won't. Because we got all of this money that we were peeing down the toilet in a war that is a joke that nobody believes in. Or at least 3/4 of the country don't believe in. With all that excess cash, you need help? We'll pay for it. Go get help. You know what that's going to do to the tax base in this country? It's amazing what happens when all of these drug addicts who don't work get jobs. This is going to be a net gain across the board. And if you don't see that, maybe you're still getting high. I don't know. Truthfully. And this is every drug, people. This is absolutely every drug. I'm talking about alcohol. It's no different. I don't care what the drug is, because the problem is less the drug and more the fact that we don't treat anybody. Thank you, Mark. Mark says, anyone that needs help with that Rumble account, email him. And trust and believe I will be doing that because Mark said he is going to be helping me get that set up. Happy birthday, Crazy Brumfield. But I'm going to keep yelling. I really am. And I'm going to start taking action more than just getting in front of this microphone and screaming. I'm going to start taking action for real. I'm going to be a thorn in people's sides. See, these are facts. These are facts. These can't be argued. 3/4 of the country. If that ain't a majority, people, I mean, again, I was told there'd be no math. You don't need to do a whole lot of math to realize that 75% is a big, big majority. In fact, 55% is a big majority. And 55% wants decriminalization. 75% thinks the war on drugs isn't winnable and we're wasting our money. Are we going to see an uptick in drug use? Truthfully, I don't think we will. I don't. But if we did, it might be for one generation. You see, what happens is empirical evidence kicks the hell out of any other education. When kids watch what happens to people that can legally go out and get these substances, they'll avoid them. They may legally try some of the stuff that isn't killing people, like weed. But if by some chance they go down that road to addiction, we'll be able to help them. You know why? Because we won't treat them like criminals. Take this out of the Department of Justice and put it into Health and Human Services. We're not criminals. We're drug addicts. I was a criminal. I'll own that. When they expunge everybody's records, they're not going to expunge mine because I wasn't a drug dealer. I was a thief. Sadly, I was a thief because of a disease. It's all right. You got to own the things that you did. There's no way of getting around them. I can live with that. I really can. But I struggle watching it happen to other people. If you knew the number of people that email me to tell me that they're struggling with drug addiction, if you knew the number who said to me, I sell myself so that I can get high. Is that sinking in? You realize that when you sell your body, you're selling your soul along with it. The damage that is done by that doesn't go away when a person gets sober. No, they spend the rest of their life in treatment to try to cope with what they did so that they could supply their disease. If we're a civilized country, and there are times I wonder, but if we're a civilized country, then the time has come to do something about this. Plain and simple, the time has come that we need to do something about this. So when I draw up some stuff, I want some signatures. And when that thing is signed, and we've got all of those people that signed the petition, we're going to start blasting it out to every single damn politician in this country. They need to realize that their job is to do what we want them to do. Sadly, the reason that this malfunctioning company that we call the United States of America, the reason that we're going to hell in a handbasket is because these politicians believe this is their country, not ours. They believe that they get to play and do whatever they want, and we just have to deal with it because they're smart. They're the elite. You talk about the 1%, we're talking about the 1/10 of 1%, the 100th of 1%, who feel that they're smarter than we are, who believe that we're not smart enough to know what is right for this country. Well, I got news for them. We are this country. They're not. Take every single jackwagon in Washington, D.C., and what percentage of the 330 million people in this country do they make up? They certainly don't make up 3/4. They certainly don't make up 55%. And it's high time they start doing what we want them to do. The BS needs to stop. I said about a week ago that I was going to be doing shows, and they were going to be called The Politics of Drugs. So here we go. If you're a big fan of Democrats, they are refusing to even talk about going down to the border to discuss fentanyl coming across the border. That makes them suck. If you are a fan of Republicans, they are the only crew out there that is not on board for the decriminalization. They're at 40%. They suck. So for those of you who want to call me a right winger, you can hate me. For those that want to call me a left winger, you can hate me. You know what? I am a one-issue voter. That's it. I am a one-issue voter. And that issue is, what are you going to do about people who have a disease and are being persecuted for it? That's all I care about. That's it. This is the lifeboat party as far as I'm concerned. You people have been kind enough to allow me, to allow Heather, to allow Mark to sit in this chair and talk to you about the war on drugs, about sobriety, about all of the issues that we have to deal with as people with the disease. Trust me when I tell you, we appreciate that. Honestly. But I'm getting to a point where I feel like I got to take it seriously in a way that I haven't. I got to stop covering my backside and worrying about whether or not I will be demonetized or whether or not I will get a strike. The truth is more important than all of that. And the truth is, their policies are killing 400 people a day. And they don't care because those people have a disease. If those people were diabetics, if those people were cancer survivors, if those people were any other disease, we'd be raising hell. We are worth exactly what a diabetic is worth. We are worth exactly what someone with cancer, leukemia, any other disease is worth. We're not less of an American because our disease involves drugs. We're not. I will go out on a limb and say that the kindest people I've met in my life are drug addicts. They're not judgmental, and they truthfully want to help people. Do you know how many times in the last 2 months somebody on this boat said, I want to help so-and-so. I got $150. And I know for a damn fact they don't have $150. I know the life they're living. That $150 is taking food off their table. That $150 is going to make making the car payment tough. But they're willing to give up that money because they think that there's somebody else who's hurting more than they are. Find me that somewhere else in this country, because I ain't seeing it. The only place I see that is here. So I'm going to start yelling. I got one gift. I really do. I got one gift. I got the ability to speak, and I'm going to speak. I'm going to do a lot more of it, and I'm going to raise hell, people. I'm going to get petitions going. I'm going to do a lot of things so that our voices get heard. And not because I want the world to be able to get high. See, that's the problem. The problem is that the idiots that don't get it think that decriminalization is so that people like us can go, woohoo, heroin, right? All the dope we want. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've never met a junkie that liked being a junkie, ever. That doesn't happen. Those people don't exist. No one enjoys being a drug addict. Sadly, they're not given an out. And we do what we can. We do what we can to provide support to people, right? And we supply that support in terms of prayers and in terms of, being there to talk about the problems that keep people getting high and about the solutions that you can put into place to start programming your mind in such a way that you can get sober. We're also there to give money to people that need it. We do an awful lot to try to help individuals. We really do. But the time has come that we need to do more. I do. I need to do more. And I really hope that everybody on the boat views this the way that I do. If you don't, I'm not going to lose any respect for you. This is a tough thing to talk about. It really is. It is a tough thing to talk about because it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming that we have to cope with a disease that the world thinks makes us lepers, makes us less than Americans. That can't keep going on. It can't. Since the dawn of man, people have been using chemicals to change their consciousness. Whether you like that idea or not is irrelevant to this subject. No one's going to stop. They're not. The only way that they're going to stop is if there's intervention. Sadly, the money that could do that intervention is being spent to persecute the people that need the help the most. I'm begging the people on this boat to stand with me because this is our war. If not us, no one else. This is our disease that is being persecuted. This is our life that they think is a write-off. These are our friends that are dying at 400 a day. And in the process, we're making cartels rich enough to have their own armies. For real. They're buying weaponry you wouldn't believe. There are more drones over the southwest border from cartels than there are from us. Apparently, we can't afford the drones. In fact, we're going to stop flying them in 2 months. The hell do you think is going to happen then? If we don't do something now, there isn't going to be a society left to save. If you think I'm over dramatizing this, it's the number one cause of death. How many times have I said that on this show? The number one cause of death in this country, the number one cause of death in this country right now is poison being sent up here by a group of people that might just want to take over America. And I'm not even being funny. Do you know that the president of Mexico came out the other day and said that Mexico is a safer place than America? The beast from the East came out and said, it's not our fault that all of this fent is ending up in your shores. It's yours. The fact that you guys can't control your desire for this substance, it's your fault, not ours. That mindset is killing 400 people a day, and it's not their fault. Yeah, they're the scumbags making it, but it's our fault. It's our fault. It's the United States of America's fault. We are failing a group of people with a disease. And I'm here to tell you, not on my watch. Not on my watch. I don't know how many people I'm going to be able to reach, but I'm going to reach every one of them. And I don't know how many politicians are going to listen, but I'm going to friggin' try as hard as I can to make them listen. Because the plan in action right now sucks. You understand? It sucks. And something's got to be done about it. I'm going to get a host of hate mail for this. But I believe that the vast majority of people are going to back me up on this. I really believe that. We know what it is. We know what it is. We know what it feels like to have the world hate us because we were born with a disease. Yeah, we might have tried drugs we shouldn't have. But from that day forward, it was over. You understand that? From that day forward, it was over. Not our fault. So that's the politics of drugs, the way I see them today. There are going to be some changes coming up here in the very near future, one of which is going to be the lifeboat will be available on Rumble. And I promise you I will be saying things there that I probably can't get away with saying here. And if you think this one's going to get monetized, pretty crazy that it won't though, right? What have I said that's wrong? What have I said that isn't true? Truth, unfortunately, is on the chopping block. So if it's going to be, it's up to me and everybody else here. So I beg you to stand with me on this, people, because there is going to be petitions. There's going to be ways to sign this. I'm going to get you every address, every jackwagon in the country that we can just blast out to. If you have even an inkling that what I'm saying right now is legit, then share this damn video. Please, because they're going to bury it. Our only hope of this video getting 200 views is every person here sharing it. If you agree with what I said, then share this video to wherever you can share it. If you don't, I still love you. I do. And I'll still do everything I can to help you get sober. You might think I'm crazy, and that's okay. It is. It's okay. But 3/4 of this country agree with me. You know, that's it. So that's where I'm at, people. God bless you. I really appreciate you hanging and listening to me rant. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning. It will not be on the politics of drugs, I promise you. But this one had to be said. It really did. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. We'll see you tomorrow at 5 a.m. This here. That's a cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. I love you. Mark, glad to see you here, bud. Really appreciate you. God bless. And that, people, is a wrap. Sorry about the rant, but you know what? It needed to be said.